Hi, I'm Angel Ortalaza, guys.
And I'm Eric Minhares.
And you're watching Fantasy Football Redzone as usual.
Yes.
Alright.
Letting you guys know, you just clicked play on something great. You found us because you have a good friend, YouTube helped you, or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Or destiny. We like to call it fate.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
God likes you.
Alright, so today we're gonna, as promised, we're gonna get you going with that rookie video.
Yes.
That we told you guys.
Rookies, alright? Or beginners, whatever name you feel is best for you. Why do we do it? You might wonder, you kind of like football, maybe you don't know football, everybody's doing it, your friends are pressuring you, do it, so now you're going to do it, maybe you don't know. But look, why do we do it? Because it's fun.
Yeah.
You get to compete with your friends. This is like a 16-week game of Monopoly.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So it's, so it's 16 weeks. At the end of it, if you're the champ for the next 8 months.
Yeah, that's right.
You can't be challenged. So it's something to look forward to, something that's fun. It's strategic, and it gives you something to watch, talk about. It's just something extra in life that you can do.
Yeah, and it brings your friends together. It's a good social event. Brings people together, celebrations, parties, and different things like that. You're not just watching your home team, you're watching other games, and it just keeps things interesting. And then one thing that I always like is just that if you celebrate Christmas, I always kind of laugh about it because if you do win that championship league, it's usually right around that time. So you get a nice little extra cash if you're in a cash league, so that you can go ahead and get some additional gifts and whatnot. So there's all different ways of thinking about it. And then for the women too, not just guys, we want the women to get more involved. We have I'm in a couple leagues. One of the leagues actually has 5 girls in it, and so that's a lot. 5 out of 12. My wife is in the league, and so she can attest. It's been for you couples out there, if if you're married women, if your husband's watching football because of fantasy football and it drives you nuts. You can't beat them, join them. Just enjoy it with them. It ends up being a pretty cool experience watching the games together and competing,
Yeah, and props to you. You probably watch football, you don't like it already, but because of him, now you're doing fantasy football to help out. Good for you. Props. Good job. You're doing something great, all right?
Yeah.
Let's keep going with it.
And lastly, I don't want to in any way discount or discredit you girls. Like, some of you girls are into football from the get-go before, and then, maybe your husband's not into football. So I know there's a couple of girls out there that are football fanatics, and they know their stuff, so we're not saying just only guys watch football, so of course not. So, yeah. But,
So, that's it. So make sure you pay attention.
Yeah.
16 weeks. There's money at the end of it. Pay attention. Have fun. Relax. But watch these videos and ask your friends. It's going to help out a lot.
All right, rookies. So we're going to start you off with some really general information, really basic information. Some of you rookies may not, you're going to be like, I already know this. This is very basic. But then some of you won't. So we won't spend too much time on it. But we do want to give you a small breakdown of what the offensive field looks like for the players that you have on your fantasy football team.
Yeah, this is more so if you're still trying to understand football. You're not sure, you're looking at the field, everybody's just crazy. It looks like a bunch of men just crashing into each other, but you don't know what happened.
Yeah.
This is a little bit more for you.
Okay. So as you see on the screen there, in football, you generally hit this line in the middle. It represents the offensive line, right? And so you're able to see on each side, there's a TE, tight end, on each side of the line. And then there's WRs, wide receiver spread out, and then there's a QB position, which is quarterback, of course, and RB running back. So sometimes with the TEs, the tight ends, sometimes there is one tight end on the line. Sometimes there's two like that, depending on different formations that the offense might have. But Eric, why don't you tell them the responsibilities of a tight end and how that applies to you?
Yeah, so they're still part of the line, the offensive line. What's the offensive line? These are people that protect the quarterback and they open running lanes for the running back. Mm-hmm. So, and sometimes they block for the most part, but they also play as an offensive player. So if they don't have to block anybody. They can just run. If they're open, the quarterback passes on them, and they're eligible for points, yards, and touchdowns. So they're kind of like a receiver, but for the most part, they block. They're a lot bigger.
Yeah, they're a lot bigger. Some big names you probably know are Rob Gronkowski, one of the famous tight ends. He blocks a lot. He's a big guy, strong. You got to be able to move people, create those lanes like Eric was saying. But he also catches the ball. The guy has amazing hands. Yeah. He had a nice one-handed catch last year into the end zone. And so then another one's Jimmy Graham. Yes. So these are tight ends. Yeah. All right.
And then so we continue on. You might see on the screen we have 3 WRs. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. Wide receivers. Every team is a little bit different. For the most part, they usually have 2 to 3 wide receivers. Rarely, sometimes 1. But for the most part, you'll see 2 or 3. There's some that are really close, you see, to the tight end, the TE on one side. And there's one that's further out. Angel, you want to break down what the closer one does and the further one does?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go with the first, the one that's closer to the tight end. As you see in there, you see he's between the one WR and then the other. He's between the other TE. So the WR in the middle here on the left side. This is what they call a slot receiver. The responsibilities of the slot receiver are for the most part, he has a lot more shorter passes to him. It's a little bit more difficult as a slot receiver, some may feel, because as a slot receiver, they call hike, and a lot of times they're running over the middle of the field. They're more exposed and more guarded by linebackers, some of the bigger guys, and so there's more traffic in the middle. So it's a little hard, but they tend to get a lot of quick catches, quick receptions. So if you're in a PPR league, this makes a lot of sense for you. You may have some great wide receivers, slot receivers. So and these guys will, every catch gives you that point or half a point, however it is set up. And so some well-known guys in this position are Randall Cobb, Wes Welker, and now
Jordan Matthews.
Jordan Matthews, exactly. And then there's the outside wide receiver, and those guys are the outside wide receivers. A lot of times they go for deep balls. They run all sorts of routes. Again, there's different things that could go on, but these are general guidelines of what happens. And these guys are guys like Jordy Nelson and a lot of Julio Jones. A lot of the more famous.
Bryant.
There tends to be more successful outside receivers because they obviously have less traffic. They're going against that cornerback instead of safety, depending on the route they run. But again, these are just general ideas of how they work.
Yeah, they usually go for further catches, which obviously leads to more points, more yards, more touchdowns. And they get more media press for that. More touchdowns, more points. Yeah, it's a little bit more famous. But those are general purposes, and something that you need to kind of know. Not too much. Don't stress it. But if you're playing PPR, non-PPR, which we will further break down, this is good info for you to know. And then we also have the next quarterback, right? So you guys know the quarterback. Probably don't need to explain it, but the guy just passes the ball to his receivers. Sometimes a running back, if a running back's available, he obviously has to be protected by his offensive line. So it's important to know that your quarterback has a good offensive line and gives him time to pass.
Yeah.
After that, we have a running back right behind him. Running backs, the purpose is just to obviously run the ball. He tends to block. If someone gets past the offensive line, he protects the quarterback, make sure he has also time. He also plays receiver. If there's an open spot, he runs to it, gets the catch. This is the basic breakdown. We want you to know to make sure, because it's these little things that can take you another step further towards winning for your season in general.
Exactly, guys, and we just want to help paint the picture for you guys. Again, this is not an exhaustive list of positions and responsibilities. There's much more that can be talked about, but this is general idea, paint the picture for you so that when you're watching the football game, you're able to see exactly each of these positions and how they function in the game. But moving on.
Yeah.
We also want to give you a couple fantasy terms that you hear a lot, fantasy football terms all together, and so that as you're, in this fantasy football world, you're not thrown off by all the jargon and all the terms that get thrown around. No one intimidates you. No one. You're able to keep up with the conversation. You know what's going on. So there's a lot of stuff that people say and that you may not have heard directly. But go ahead and kick us off with the first one, Eric.
Yeah. Just to make sure, just to add on just a little bit to what Angel said. It's important because we might not be your only fantasy source. So whenever you read anything else, you watch anything else, we want to make sure that you know. Because understanding all these little things will take you a step further.
Yeah.
Definitely a step further. Because you don't want to read something first says, do this for this player because of this. But you're not sure, you misunderstand, and you do a different move.
Yeah.
We want to make sure we're committed to you being able to win.
Yeah.
This is not just... we just spit out advice. Like we want to make sure that you get this, you understand this.
Exactly.
For you guys.
Let me actually kick it off with the first one. I like this one, the handcuff.
Right.
Stole it from you. But all right. So first term for you, very common one is handcuff. Might have heard it, might have not heard it. So basically, this is whenever you have it can be an all-star player, or it can just be anyone who has a backup to them. So the handcuff is that backup person. It's the person that if your player were to go down, you have that next person, that handcuff, that would basically step into that role and fulfill his duties. So a lot of times you can have that person either for that insurance in case your initial player, your starter, goes down. You at least have the person starting in that role and see if they have any good value. Or sometimes people hold them for bait, or just for to have something to their advantage. Have that backup player, and then if your player goes down, then boom, this guy blows up and ends up doing well. Then that handcuff just blew up. So handcuffs are those guys. It's good to have on your team, especially if you have an all-star. But obviously you can't fill all your handcuffs. So
So just add on to what Angel said, to back up for your player. If your star player, whoever your star player is, if he goes down, your backup won't be able to produce exactly what your star player did. But in potential, usually they can do up to 90 the most, rare, 80, 70% of the points of production, which is still good.
Yeah.
Like I'm saying, it's an insurance. It's good to have every now and then.
Yeah.
Just to go further, flex. This is your flex spot, right? So on your team, your league, it might not just say flex. It might just have like an abbreviation of WT or R, for wide receiver, running back, or a tight end. And this spot is the spot on your team that you play either of these. So you have wide receiver spots, running back, so you can only specifically play those. But then you also have a flex. Sometimes be careful, watch out, make sure what your league lets you use. There's some that you use quarterbacks, which can score a lot more points. I'm sure you're aware of that.
That's interesting.
But for the most part, it is.
Yeah.
It gives you space. So knowing your league settings, you want a position player that can score you the most points in that.
Yeah.
So if you're, let's say, a PPR, which we're going to explain right now, you want maybe a receiver, just someone that can take advantage of the settings.
Yeah.
So just letting you know, it's a spot where you can play more than one type of position player.
All right. The next term is slot. We kind of went over that with you just a bit ago. Just remember, if they say that the receiver's playing out of the slot, or if they say a slot receiver, it's an inside guy between the tight end and the wide receiver, between the line and the wide receiver, the outside receiver that goes and gets those catches down the middle, different things like that. So slot receiver.
Yeah, specializes in short catches.
Mm-hmm.
So next one we have is garbage time. Understand this because this can be a little bit confusing if you're, beginner, rookie. Garbage time is at the end of the game, about somewhere towards the end of it, the game is basically set. Maybe there's a difference in 2-3 touchdowns. Could be a blowout. Teams almost don't care. They kind of know, all right, we're just going to finish the next 10 minutes, next 5 minutes, 7 minutes, whatever. Yeah. At this point in time, no one really cares. If one team wants to score a lot of points, they're usually capable of it. Because the other team's going to be there, but they're not going to try 100%. Or they might have their backups actually in there, so the starters don't get hurt.
Yeah.
In this, be careful to analyze to know if a player, you say, oh, my player or so and so, his player scored 2 touchdowns this last game. I want to get that player. Let's go for a trade. That player only scored in garbage time,
Right.
which means it was easy.
Yeah.
He didn't earn it. He's not that good.
Right.
It's just kind of like
deceiving. Yeah.
Yes. So we want you to know what garbage time is. Garbage time points, touchdowns, whatever.
Yeah.
Understand it. Don't be deceived by it. But if your players get a lot of garbage time points, hey, whatever, good for you.
Yeah.
Sell your player high.
Yeah, exactly. Try to get rid of them right away for some value. Yeah, that's like 42-0. Backups already sitting down, and then they start just launching the ball, getting some Hail Marys just to get some points on there, and boom, this guy scores, and you're like, oh man, he managed to get 2 touchdowns, just like Eric was saying. Like, no, that's garbage time. Those are garbage time touchdowns.
It's a little bit of pride. Like, I'm not gonna lose. I'm gonna score a touchdown. I'm gonna do something. I'm not gonna go out weak, but
yeah.
So
you want quality touchdowns, yeah.
Yes. So sleeper.
Yeah, sleeper is a guy who is being overlooked a lot. A guy who, a player who is in the league and not a lot of people know about them or what they're capable of. But you consider them a sleeper because you know that they have some upside potential. You know what they're capable of, and so to you're calling them a sleeper because you know what can happen afterwards. So then they get on the field and play, and boom, they end up blowing up, and you say, "I called that. That was my sleeper of the year." So it's always exciting to see players that there are new stars rising up. I remember when Des Bryant was a sleeper, believe it or not. And then I was just reading about the articles about how he was like out partying. He was now going to practice. He was missing practice. And it was just, he had really bad off the field habits. And the Cowboys were fed up with it. And they were like, man, are they going to cut this guy? He's so talented. But no one really knew about it. They're like, why is it such a big deal? And then Cowboys end up sending a security guard. They hire a full-time security guard for Des Bryant to wake him up in his hotel room and different things and get him up and get him over to practice to make sure that he wasn't drinking. He was on strict probation, all these things. And then as soon as they did that, and some people criticized that. They were like, why are they going to that extent for a player? If he doesn't want to play or if he doesn't get his act together, like, cut him. But, they knew what they had in Des Bryant. They had something special. And, look at the star that he is now. Yeah. And he was a sleeper at one point. So, things like that.
Yeah, it's a sleeper. Someone you should have on your team.
Yeah. PPR.
Yeah. So PPR. So we're going to explain PPR and basically standard non-PPR, just so it makes sense.
Yeah.
PPR, the abbreviation is, or the acronym is point per reception. Well, point per reception. So it means every time it could be a tight end, wide receiver, running back. So whenever they catch the ball, they get a point for it.
Yeah.
Check your league settings. For some, it's half a point. For some, it's a whole point, quarter point. It varies in everybody.
Yeah.
And then there's standard, which is the way it was originally intended and made was you don't get points for it. You just get points for the yards that your player gained and the touchdowns he scored. So make sure you know what kind of league settings you have because this will also affect the players you use. Yeah. For instance, slot receivers, as we've spoken already, they focus on a lot of short passes and versus other wide receivers are more longer or further passes. If you're going to be using a PPR, slot receivers are they make up for a lot. They're pretty good. They're not as big stars as other wideouts.
Yeah.
But you'll make up a lot because they'll get a lot of catches.
Yep.
Wide receivers, they become famous because they get deep passes, they score touchdowns, and that's great. But you want those players also more so in standard. But if you're in PPR, your slot receivers, they'll help you out a lot.
They have a lot of value, yeah.
So that's PPR, non-PPR, or they call it non-PPR standard.
Yeah.
Make sure you check your settings.
Yeah. Then IR spot. Go ahead with the IR spot.
IR spot, our injury reserve. So if you already know, there's a lot of players that are hurt during preseason or just in general. Your bench usually has about 6 spots that you can use. Sometimes this will take you have an injured player there. If your league has an IR spot, right, an injury reserve spot, then you can have your injured player not take up space on your actual team and just be placed on that. So it saves you space so you can still keep on more talent as we always suggest. And Yeah, I mean, that's basically it.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
All right. No, that's pretty good. Boom or bust. This boom or bust is similar to sleepers, but very different at the same time. Some people confuse them, but yeah, I mean, boom or bust is a player that has some upside potential, or it's high reward, high risk, high reward. It has some upside to potential, but at the same time, could just fall flat. And so the difference between that and the sleeper is that, like, again, these are riskier players. This is someone that no one knows much about. This player could end up being a star, or they could end up getting cut from the NFL. And it's just these people usually come out of nowhere. It's just like, hey, does this guy? And it's very, like it can be from one week to the other. This can happen. So pretty self-explanatory. Boom or bust player.
Yeah. So it's kind of close like a sleeper that almost didn't fulfill their potential.
Yeah.
But also, like, boomer bust can be used for players that aren't consistent.
Yeah.
So last year, for
example, that's a good point.
If you knew last year, if you knew the Vikings situation, Matt Asiata, third string running back who would score a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah.
But you can't always bet on them. You're not sure you want to start these players.
Yeah.
But sometimes they'll score 20, 30 points, and then the next week when you play them, they get 5, 2, 3, and then you bench them. And then the next time you bench them, they score a bunch of points. So they're not consistent. So you gotta just really try to time it. Make sure you look at matchups.
Yeah.
We'll let you know about certain players, certain matchups that they have. But for the most part, be wary of boomer bust guys. You want more consistency.
Yeah.
Or at least sleepers, guys that are good, that you can wait on for a couple weeks until they blossom.
Yeah.
But be careful with the boomer bust when you hear that.
Okay. Hammy. Go ahead and break down Hammy.
Hammy. All right. So, your hamstrings. All right. So, the NFL, there's definitely a career or opportunity for, like, hamstring experts.
Yeah.
Because a majority of athletes are going down with hamstring problems. And it's just, a little bit of muscle balance, a little bit of stretching out. But remember, these guys, they go at full force for, like, 5-7 seconds with all their muscles. So they start to pull stuff. Their hammies. Don't worry about it. It's just a muscle. They usually need to relax, to take time off. They'll be fine. It's not a serious injury for you to worry about. If you hear any other stuff, you'll see on your rosters. They'll tell you if some guy's injured or is having hamstring problems. Don't worry too much. He'll just need time off. They'll be fine.
Yeah.
Nothing long term.
So we just want... there's all sorts of injuries, but this one gets nicknamed a lot just as hammy, and we want to make sure that when you hear this player is dealing with a hammy, has nothing to do with ham and has nothing to do with going hard or a hammer or anything like that. It's a hamstring injury. All right. 8 in the box are also like a stacked box. What this just means is just the way that the defense is setting up. So if last video we were talking about Frank Gore, how no one else faced more 8 in the box than Frank Gore. So that's a great example. What they were saying there is what we were saying there is that that when defenses are setting up, they have 4 linemen and 4 linebackers or 3 linebackers, and they're just basically stacking the box. They have all these defensive players set up to attack that pocket, that area of the quarterback and the running back, and the reason why that was happening a lot with Frank Gore was because Kaepernick can also run. So when you have a quarterback that can run, that can really affect it, because now they want to trap the quarterback and the running back. And then if they don't have as great of receivers, then, they're even more set up that way. Or the opposite of, stacking the box would be that they would be spread out all over the field. So if you hear about a player, a running back in particular, facing a stacked box or 8 in the box, that means that he's going to have a real tough time with that matchup, that defense. They're going to really focus in on attacking that area.
Yeah, be careful. Be wary of that. So we're kind of pass catcher, right? As a running back.
Yeah.
So, for this, as we explained earlier, there's running backs sometimes that mostly block. Then, actually, almost all really block. Then they run the ball, and if they're open, they catch. But there's also running backs that specialize in this. Just really specialize. Like, just purely, this is what they're here for. They're not going to run the ball through a bunch of linemen. They're going to go to the side, they're going to run short route or something, and and play as a wide receiver, but they start next to the quarterback.
Yeah.
So that's the main thing. But you should know which of these running backs are like that or consider that. So you call them pass catchers. They call them. They have a lot of names for them.
Pass catcher, running backs, yeah. Matt Forte is a great example of this. Also, Le'Veon Bell, Darren Sproles. But these guys are, they have the best of both worlds. They can run the ball well too. For these guys, don't get it mistaken. They can catch the ball. They're talented that way, but they also are hard runners. But Matt Forte, Le'Veon Bell, Darren Sproles are really well known for their pass catching ability.
Yes, and so just be wary. Make sure you know these. Reason being, if you're going to play in a league that's PPR settings, these guys will have more value than running backs that do not catch and strictly rely on running.
Right.
So,
exactly.
Something for you to know.
All right. Depth. So, very simple. When you hear people talking about you want to make sure that you have depth in a position, or they say you don't have any depth on your team, all they're simply referring to is just in a position, your ability or you having several of those players backed up. So if you have a lot of depth at the wide receiver, if your league has 3 wide receiver slots and then you have those filled and you have another 3 wide receivers at your bench, we'd say you have pretty good depth at the wide receiver position. So just having people to back up that position, and you're strong in that. So
yeah, make sure your bench, you always have people that you can plug in right away if one of your starters get injured.
Yeah.
And then you have maybe some sleepers in there, guys with upside.
Yeah.
Take them a little bit of time to blossom later on in the season, but you have those there, but you still have your go-to guys that you can go to in case you need be.
All right.
So depth's important.
Yeah.
And then free agents.
Yeah.
All right. So let me see. So we have also like waiver wires. See if I try to explain both of these together just so it makes it a little bit easier for you guys. After you draft, you finish with your draft, you'll see a lot of players that were not picked. Free agents are the players that you can pick up right away. Just drop one of your own. And this guy, you acquire him, he's on your team instantly. Then you see, sometimes you might try to pick up a guy and it says waivers or has waivers on him. Mm-hmm. Waivers just means someone dropped him. You kind of have to wait for like a process to clear, about like 1-2 days, 3 days. And if it's after the weekend of when like the teams played, it'll be next Wednesday, right?
Yeah,
next Wednesday at like midnight, sometime between there, that you're able to pick them up. So that's the main difference. Some you can pick up right away. Some you have to wait just a little bit because they either played or someone else just dropped them. And then you will also have, which it was explained in the other video, is how to manage that. Best ways to do that.
Yeah, exactly. All right, mock drafts. We talked about it earlier in one of our videos. Just simply a draft that isn't real. It's a draft for preparation. It's something that you jump online, you join a mock draft, and then they give you a so-called position or draft order, or sometimes you get to choose a draft order, and you basically draft a team. A fantasy team that isn't real. It's funny because fantasy isn't real to begin with, but you draft a player, and it's fantasy on top of fantasy, and you draft your team, and then you get to see how you did on the draft. And it's just, as we're saying in our previous video, practice makes perfect. So that's what a mock draft is. A draft that doesn't count for anything.
Yeah, so just make sure you practice. It'll get you ready, prepared for what to expect, what players to pick, and receive your time. For the next, we have IDP, Keeper, Dynasty, Auction Leagues.
Let's go through that one fast since it's a lot.
Yeah. You're a beginner, you're a rookie, stay away from this.
Yeah.
This is just fantasy football on a much complicated scale. It's very complicated. So if you want, IDP, you use defensive players. Independent defensive players.
Individual defensive players.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. So you just pick players instead of having a whole defense. You have individual players such as Clay Matthews.
Yeah.
Who else? Can't think off the top of my head right now.
Joe Hayden, Brett Grimes, all these guys. Richard Sherman.
And you get points off of whatever they're able to do. Yeah. Keepers. So a keeper league is one. Generally, there's different rules for this one, but the case is, let's say you drafted this year. Yeah. Next year, you can keep one of the players that you drafted.
Yeah.
Might be 1, might be 2, and the function of how it works, you might have to take them in the first round or the same round you drafted them the previous year. It's different with every league, but make sure you know that that's what a keeper is. A dynasty league is basically everything carries over to the next season, and you draft just people that are free agents if need be. And then auction. This is where you bid for players. So you just bid for players. You have about a cap, a limit. Could be 200, 300, just like virtual dollars. And you guys just bid and try to make a team with like that salary cap.
Yeah.
So, but if you're a beginner, make sure you just rookie. You understand these. Or we're gonna try to focus on helping you guys is redraft leagues. 12-man stand.
Exactly.
12-man. I say PPR standard redraft leagues. A redraft league is where you and your friends, coworkers, whoever you're playing with. It could be people you don't know. It's just every year you start a new team, start fresh. It's easy, it's fun, less stressful. Dynasty, be like, I have to prepare for next year, and next year, and next year.
A lot more complicated. And redraft is probably what you're most familiar with. You didn't even know it's called redraft. That's what most people just call fantasy football. So yeah, the only reason we're bringing these up is just so that you're aware if someone's talking about or asking you what type of league you're in. You know, if it's a dynasty league, there's all sorts of different types of leagues out there. So just so you know what you're talking about and you know what type of league you are in. So, auto picks and cues.
Yes.
So Eric does these a little bit more than I do. I do more offline drafts, but these are more mentioned for online drafts where as you're drafting and you know it's getting ready to be your turn. You're on the computer. We want to encourage you to cue the player on there just so that. As you're looking, if you don't get around to making the pick on time and the ticker is going down, you already had that player that you queued that you basically said, I'm interested in this player. This is probably who I'm going to go with. So you have that. Or just, auto pick is if you do run out of time and it automatically gets picked for you. Some people even don't make their picks. They're not available for the draft. They let their whole team auto pick. It's, that's kind of like the lazy way out. So, but yeah, auto picks and cues.
Yeah. So, and then next we have SuperBacks and Super Wideouts. I like this because I came up with the name SuperBacks. Reason being, I would speak to like one of my friends, actually my cousin, who's really good at fantasy football, and to distinguish running backs that you normally draft and the top ones that you really want in the first round, I would just say, versus saying all their names, Le'Veon Bell, AP, so and so, I would just say, I want a SuperBack. You want a SuperBack. Your first pick, you want a SuperBack. And what that means is just the top tier level of running backs. Top tier level. So there's 5 this year that is distinguished above the rest. Where if they stay healthy, you have them, they do as they're expected, you're going to have a really, really, really great value at that. Then we have, because of that, we also made up super wideouts, super receivers. Reason being just to distinguish which ones you're talking about, the top tier level. Yeah. And that's all that we are referring to. So you might hear say SuperBacks or super receivers, and it's just that top, the cream of the crop, the elite level of those 2 positions that we are referring to.
I don't think you made that up. I think you probably think you made it up. I think you probably heard it on NFL Network or something. Maybe Super Wideouts you make it up. I'll give you that one.
I added that today.
All right. RBBC, running back by committee.
Yeah.
This is basically when you have several running backs in the backfield on a team that all have potential to be the starter, or the coach just chooses for them to share time. So running back by committee, they're all back there, 2 or 3 different running backs, and they rotate, they share time. Sometimes they're in for a couple of plays, for a couple of drives, and the other ones, and so no one running back gets to really stand out and be the star. It's a running back by committee on that team. All right.
Yeah. Just be careful when you draft these guys. They're not going to be consistent. Remember the boomer bust. This is what happens with running backs that are on a committee.
Yeah.
So.
Last term for you is FFRZ. You should know this by now. This stands for Fantasy Football Redzone. This is a worldwide term. So everybody should know this. This is included in the rookie video. So, Fantasy Football Red Zone, guys. Hey, we want to give a quick shout out to WhirlyBall. Hey, we're located here in the Midwest. We're in Chicago. So, for anyone that's in the Midwest area, if you guys are looking for a place to have your draft, there is WhirlyBall, a location called WhirlyBall. This place offers a lot of different things such as bowling, laser tag, and whatnot. But they also have private rooms where you can have your draft. And so we have... this is brand new, that package that they set up. They have a really awesome package. We're going to give you the email and the contact information of who. So if you're looking for a place to draft, or if your commissioner is looking for a place to draft, head over to WhirlyBall. You can get the room. They provide the draft board. They provide food, unlimited beer if you guys drink, all different things for a really reasonable price. So check it out. It's on 1825 West Webster Avenue, and that's in Chicago, Illinois. With the email for you, the contact person would be joel.alvarado@whirlyball.com. Again, we're writing this in the description for you, so if you want to contact them, and that's www.whirlyball.com. So let them know that Fantasy Football Red Zone sent you, FFRZ, and they will make sure they give you some exclusive treatment and take care of you. All right?
Yeah, if you want to take it to the next level, you're planning it, you're not sure where to plan it, take it there. Take it there. Have fun. Make it memorable. It's fantasy football.
Yeah.
Look forward to it. Something you want to have fun with. So.
Yeah. Just want to give you a little connect, get you plugged in.
Yeah.
All right?
And then, so closing out, guys. We're gonna, let me get this right. We do still have our script segment that we're bringing up after we're all done with our drafts.
Yeah.
You want to move players. We're gonna help you sell them high. We're gonna help you with the wording. We're gonna help you with facts and help you sell your players.
Yeah.
You know, sell them, buy them with facts. So you can get the best advantage, build up your team, structure it right, take it to the championship, and that's gonna be once draft time is done.
Mm-hmm.
The season starts.
Yep.
We'll be posting it up for you guys.
It's going to be good. And we still have one more rookie video for you. This is a special edition one. We have one more coming for you.
Yes.
And this is going to be so that once that season starts, as Eric was talking about week 1 and on, we want to give you the tools and guide you through how to work your fantasy football website, how to pick up players, how to use the research tools, and how to really use those lists to your advantage. All right, guys?
Yeah, and we'll keep continuing our episodes, our other ones, for you guys every week, which guys to look out for, structure your team. We'll still try to keep it around 15 minutes. We want to be your one-stop, video for you guys, versus you guys watching 5 videos that are 3 minutes long with commercials in them. We want to give you a lot of stuff on one video just to help you out, your lunch break, whenever you got time.
Right.
So just keep watching out for those.
Email us at fantasyfootballrz@gmail.com if you have any questions. Hey, we're available there for you.
Our Twitter is FFRedzone15. We're on it. Trying to be on it a little bit more.
Yep.
But check us out.
All right, yeah, follow us. And then YouTube, if you're already watching us, go ahead and click that subscribe button and make sure you're getting all the latest updates. Fantasy Football Red Zone, the YouTube channel we've all been waiting for with all the information you need.